Just knock it over. Just push it. That actually improves your look there, Mike.
Probably look better behind
A little joke there.
I can't see you if I sit down.
You rotate it 90 degrees.
Yeah, you can rotate it 90 degrees and we'll all be looking at it while we're talking. So, the Forry panel has grown. You're bifurcated, Mike. So the Forry panel has grown here, but thanks for coming out, first of all. And we'll do very brief introductions, and we'll talk about the man of the weekend, I guess, here, Forrest J. Ackerman. So, here in the, yeah, give it a round of applause. All right, so that's how Lemmy used to do it. I'll do it in honor of Lemmy. That's how Lemmy used to hold his mic in Motorhead. So, and David Bowie never did that, but everybody's dying, right? Everybody's dying. So, first of all, let's start at this end, and we'll do some brief introductions. Go ahead.
Oh, my name is Mike Royer, but most people call me Mike. And I met Forry in 1960. And we'll talk about that later.
We will. There's plenty of time. I hope.
This is my daughter's favorite author.
Right. Well, he'll introduce himself. Here, you talk.
Well, I'm Ray Bradbury.
Yeah.
I wrote the Martian Chronicles. That's one of my better works. No, I'm William Nolan. I wrote Logan's Run with George. And,
George who?
the damn book's still in print. So anyway, go ahead.
Good movie, too.
I'll skip myself. Go ahead.
I'm Sunni Brock. This is my husband, Jason. He'll get to that. We edited a documentary about Forry, the Ackerman Chronicles. I edited. He directed. I edited. Yes.
He won an award too.
Yeah, the Rondo Hatton Classic Horror Award.
Yeah.
So,
They won the Dave Clark Medal.
yeah, right.
There we go. Oh, we have name tags. Continuing along. I'm David Clark, and I'm a San Diego born and raised fan. I've been a science fiction and fantasy fan for many years because one day on a newsstand I found Famous Monsters number 23 and picked it up, and my life was forever changed. And I had the great privilege to know Forry Ackerman pretty well. We'll get to that, more stories later.
I'm Famous Monsters.
Yeah.
Have you changed your name recently?
That's what it says. Yeah, my name is Philip Kim. I'm the current publisher of Famous Monsters of Filmland, and it's an honor to be here with all these guys and to, for now, represent Famous Monsters. It'll live on long beyond me. So.
That's true. It's a legacy.
Yeah, right.
And then I said I would save myself for last. All right, I'm Jason B. Brock. I'm a writer and a filmmaker. I did a film about Forry called The Ackerman Chronicles. This is like the Nut and Jeff show over here. So, and then I also did another film before that with my wife here called Charles Beaumont: The Life of Twilight Zone's Magic Man. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, we will have some of the films for sale here. We didn't bring but a few. And they're going to be, I think, showing both films this over the weekend. So the Beaumont movie in particular is very interesting if you don't know about his story, but it's fascinating. And then Forry ties in because he was Charles Beaumont's original agent, and before he left for Congan Agency, and so it's fascinating. And that's how we actually got to meet Forry, was doing the Charles Beaumont documentary. So, but yes, we got to know Forry pretty well, very late in his life, and did the longest interview I think he's ever had done. You know, it was 13 hours in one sitting. And then we did another couple of pickups for 4 hours here and 2 hours there and that kind of thing. So that's why we're all here. So since there's no, let's talk about it. You started with reminiscences. You met him in 1960.
Well, I came to Los Angeles to visit a friend who was going to LACC in film, and I just called Forry up on the phone, found him in the telephone directory of all things, and just told him I was a subscriber of Famous Monsters and loved the magazine. And we had a nice short chat, and then in 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, some friends and I drove down to LA to show him a little movie we'd made, a little monster movie called It Waits, and we spent the whole day at the Acker Mansion And then I moved to the Los Angeles area in '65 and saw Forry quite often at different shows, conventions, weekend celebrations. And we were the first guests at the very first San Diego thing that gave birth to the huge, monstrous trade show that it is now. And we even were both guests at a little thing in Whittier, California, where I lived in the '70s. And I just seemed to see Forry a lot. And he was just such a sweet, regular, down-to-earth guy, and one of those friends, if you didn't see him for 2 years, you'd start a conversation and it was like the 2 years had not passed. Those are the best kind of friends, anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I agree, yeah. In fact, what you were saying about you see Forry everywhere, I just want to touch on that really briefly because I wrote a very long article about Ackerman. It's about 7,000 words in a journal called the Weird Fiction Review, which is published by Centipede Press. And it's a pretty in-depth piece about him because I decided that really Ackerman is the linchpin for all of modernity when it comes to fandom vis-a-vis science fiction, horror, that kind of thing. But also, he's the linchpin for the modern conception and the postmodern conception of horror and science fiction because he introduced Bradbury and Harryhausen to each other, and then those guys spun off and did their things, and Ackerman also continued to do his thing with Famous Monsters, with other Spaceman magazine, all that kind of stuff that he was doing, and also the Pierre Rodin and all the books he was editing with his wife, and who was a very erudite, interesting woman also. So I think that we can't overestimate the importance of Ackerman. A lot of people tend to slag him off sometimes as just this strange little man, and so they think that he's this weird character, which he was, but he also was very important. When we were talking to Landis and Joe Dante and people like this, I mean, they just sang his accolades quite a lot. Now Harlan Ellison, not so much, but Harlan can be a dick. So, what do you tell us about Forry remembrances?
Okay, well, first thing I want to say.
Okay, that's enough. So,
thanks a lot, Jeff. First thing I want to say is how much Forry would have loved this room, because you've got pillars made out of his magazine, and you've got King Kong, one of his favorite creatures there in the corner, and he would just love this room, and I want to compliment whoever put it together because it's the most interesting single room of any convention I've been to. Now, I want to start with something sad and then move into something happy. The thing I want to start with is King Kong. Charles Beaumont, who wrote many great Twilight Zone episodes, including The Howling Man about the capture of the devil and how they let the devil loose at the end. At any rate, Charles Beaumont grew up loving one particular thing above all others, and that thing was the movie King Kong. He loved King Kong, and he would talk about it all the time. And it's a very sad thing for me to have to say that as he went into his illness in his early 30s, which was pre-senile dementia, his brain gradually weakened and his memory failed quite badly. I remember the one time I went to the Country Home and Hospital with Ray Russell, who's the former editor of Playboy. Ray Russell and I knew how much Chuck loved King Kong, and it didn't enter into the conversation going in. And we met Chuck in the lobby of the home, and he sat down, and he didn't look too bad. He spoke a little slowly at the time, but he was all right. And he said, he did space his words. He said, I want to tell you about a wonderful picture I just saw on television. And we said, what was that? And he said, it's called King Kong. And I thought, oh boy. And Russ and I just looked at each other, and we knew how far gone he was. Anyway, that's the sad story. The happy story is the one...
Yeah, you're bringing everybody down here, Bill.
the one great afternoon that I remember most about Ackerman. First of all, Ackerman loved my imitation of him. I would say, well, I met Ray Bradbury and A.E. Van Vogt and all of them there at the sci-fi convention, you know, they love that stuff, and so we'd imitate each other. I'd go over to his house and I'd say hi, and he'd say hello, and I'd say, no, you haven't quite got it right, it's hello, you know, you got that, oh, I'll try again. and so we would go through this routine every time. Well, anyway, one day he said to me, we're going out the afternoon for a big one, and what is the big one? A big one is a motion picture that is above all others for some reason or another. I said, well, what would the big one be? And he said, well, we're going to the preview showing, the first showing ever of Red Bradbury's That Came from Outer Space. They've got it set up at some little theater in the valley somewhere, and they won't tell anybody the name of the theater, so I don't know the name of the theater. I said, well, then how are we going to go see it? And he said, well, that's simple. He said, we park across the street from the studio, across the street and we'll wait in the car, and you drive, and I'll be in the passenger seat. And Ray said to me, Forry, I'll be on the bus, on the left side of the bus, about in the middle of the bus, on the left side. And then you just follow, the bus will roll out of the studio and it will go to the site of the movie. You follow the bus, and then you'll be able to be among the first people ever to see It Came from Outer Space. And I said, yeah.
What could possibly go wrong with that?
Yeah, what could go wrong? I mean, it sounds good. So I get in my car, and we get in the car, and we go and I park across the street from the studio. And this big bus comes rolling out at 10 minutes later, and Forry says, that's the one, Ray. So, okay, so I accelerate along, and we're moving along the freeway at a really high speed, and I'm trying to catch the damn bus because I want to see who's on the left side. I want to see if Ray is sitting there. He said he'd wave to us from the window. So I'm speeding along, and the bus is worried about me because this car is dogging it at high speed. So it sped up, and I sped up, and it sped up, and we're doing about 80 miles an hour, the two of us, and I'm trying to see in the window whether Bradbury's in there or not. Well, he wasn't in there, and Forry said, no, it's the wrong bus. So I said, okay, and we did a U-turn, a screaming U-turn. And we got back to the studio, and I said, I hope the real bus with Ray on it hasn't left while we were going. He said, well, let's just hope that's true. So we waited again, and another bus rolled out. And Forry says, I believe he's on that one. So we were on the freeway at 80 miles an hour, and we creep up on the thing, and I say, check the windows. And we see Ray there waving at us. And that's really pretty much the end of the story. We got to the little theater somewhere in the valley. I still don't know the name of it. And we saw It Came from Outer Space for the first time. And I remember that story. It was that bus ride, that race after the bus at 80 miles an hour on the freeway was classic.